Yo, it's Money with the facts. Welcome back to the pit. Degens, IDP, where the grinders commit. Defensive dogs eat. Watch the numbers collide. While the rest chase points, we got the shutdown side. Degens, IDP Blitz. We break it down quick. From the sacks to the picks. Every tackle we pick. Mad Money with the stats, bringing heat to the mix. If you want that edge, better tune into this. We blitzing through the tape like a corner off the edge. Knowledge stack higher than the safety on the wedge. From the trenches to the zone, we controlling the tone. Offense gets the shine, but defense builds the throne. Degens, IDP Blitz.
What is up? I am pumped for today. This kind of was like my emotions today have been super high, super low, and then somehow even higher. Had a guest, things fall through. It's the holidays. You're never going to predict anything, even though I made the episode this week called Predicting the Future. Well, shocker, nobody knows. That's what's beautiful about this game. But as every good brother can, my little bro is going to come save me. But it's not just a filler. All right, I know it's like, oh, he got his brother on there. What the heck's this guy know? He's wearing a stupid shirt. You're wearing a stupid hat. What's going on? Why do I got to listen to this? Well, let me tell you. This is my brother, Ryan Montgomery from Nerd University. I'm just kidding. He's got a master's in vocal performance, so the dude can sing. But he also is an IDP degenerate, and he's a gambling degenerate. And I am not joking when I say that this man has a positive lifetime gambling portfolio. I'm going to say it one more time. Across all the fancy platforms, all your DraftKings of the world, all of your ESPN bet rip is all positive. It's multiple sports, and for some reason, this dude has it in his head. Ryan, welcome to the Blitz. I know that you're a huge fan. I will sign the autograph after the show.
Well, I appreciate the very vivacious welcome, Matt. I appreciate you giving me the time to come on here and get degenerate with you, whether it be IDP or gambling. I appreciate the time. Looking forward to the fun.
I've been your brother for 29 years, and that is the first time I've ever heard you use the word vivacious. We are starting hot, and we are going to start with injury news. We're going to get the ugly out of the way, but I promise you it's not that ugly this week. We've been kind of blessed. 3 of the past 4 weeks has been pretty easy. The only 2 notable injuries we have on the defensive side of the ball this week are Giants breakout star, just kidding, semi-unknown, but came into relevancy, linebacker Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles. He was hurt this past week. And Reed Blankenship, he was also hurt this past week. Those are 2 relevant names in IDP. I don't think they're moving the needle too much. Ryan, I'll start with Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles. I think he's kind of the big one. It's mostly because he's been a waiver pickup for most people in IDP leagues. He's going into a heavily warranted position. It's an inside linebacker in IDP. It's like your running back in regular offensive fantasy football. So he kind of came into everybody's zeitgeist. Everybody was pumped. He had a couple of good games. Now he's going back down to probably irrelevancy. What are you doing about that?
Well, I think it's you brought it up perfectly. Like, the number one thing that we look for in IDP is just positional viability. And when injuries happen, he got into this kind of position. Micah McFadden gets hurt early in the year. Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles has really kind of stepped up from, a relative nobody to a regular the last couple of weeks in IDP circles. It's the same deal week to week. You find the next man up. It's, for me personally, because it's such an unknown at this point, you're down to like the 4th or 5th guy on the roster. I would kind of stay away. It seems like the only linebacker on that team that I would really trust would be a Bobby Okereke, because it looks like Neville Hewitt's going to be the guy that gets those stats. And if you know anything about Neville Hewitt, I wouldn't exactly say consistency is one of the things you think of. So I would personally stay away, but I'm sure that there's value to be had there if you can find out who that next guy is going to be.
I agree. I don't think that you should be scraping the bottom of this barrel. It's one thing if you're going after good defenses and their depth and good defensive coaches. The Giants are not good anywhere. All right, they're fun. I think that they're exciting to watch. They're not good. You're not sitting there and you're not going to try to gamble on New York Giants players, both in fantasy and on gambling lines. Reed Blankenship, I mean, it's a defensive back. They're a dime a dozen. Go out there and find somebody that's going to get some snaps. We're going to talk about some waivers here in a second, but I do want to tease a segment here, okay? If you're watching this show because you're a gambling guy and you like to watch some gambling, I promise you we're going to have a really, really tasty, almost like the turkey of the Thanksgiving, later on in the show. Right now, I'm giving you a couple deviled eggs. I'm giving you some dressing, all right? We're getting some stuff that you look forward to, but the whole main course of this is going to be a nice gambling line. But we're going to start a little bit with some defensive waiver wire guys in IDP leagues. Ryan, the injuries were pretty minimal, so we're going to go with some guys that you probably are going to be able to pick up. I want you to go first. Give me your first waiver guy for the week who you like.
All right, so the big one that I have, and oddly enough, both of the ones that I have are from the same team, which you would think is kind of weird. Even weirder, they're in the same position on the same team. Because as we know, the Chicago Bears have had a massive, massive injury hole that has happened at their starting linebacker core. All three of their guys have gotten hurt. Jermaine Edmonds was just put on IR yesterday. Noah Sewell's out. You just have giant holes everywhere in their linebacking core. And relatively unknown guys have had to step up. And the biggest one that stepped up to me in this past week, and I'm sure is crossing everybody's radar right now, is DeMarco Jackson. Prior to last week, he only logged 32 defensive snaps the entire year. So he is a complete unknown from week to week, and mostly was just kind of a depth. No one really expected to do anything. But last week, he had 5 solo tackles, 10 assists, and a tackle for loss, which is an IDP gold mine if you're just getting him off of waivers, especially getting close to the end of the year where we're looking for guys to get you in that stretch run. The last couple teams in the playoffs are starting to, formulate. People are trying to make moves to put him over the top. I truly believe that DeMarco Jackson could be one of those guys. He filled in immediately as the starting middle linebacker. He wore the green dot and was the play caller. And especially with Tremaine Edmonds going to IR, if he proves himself as the guy week to week, this could be the starting middle linebacker for the Bears until the end of the year. So it could be a league winner for you.
Man, love to hear that. I think that might be the 6th consecutive show we have mentioned a league winner. All right. So if there's all that many league winners, hey, you're welcome. Make sure. Hey, if you're in here watching this too, we can look at comments live. I can answer your questions. If you got questions, if you want to tell Ryan his shirt looks dumb, if you like my hat, just say something in there. I'll throw it up on the screen. We'll embarrass Ryan. It'll be great. First guy I want to talk about this week, though, for my waiver guy is Andrew Wingard. And Ryan, you were familiar with him as a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, but I want to talk a little bit about him before I let you show me all your Jaguars love. For starters, he plays the second most snaps in that entire defense behind only Foye Oluokun. The third place player is about 250 snaps less. One more time, I'm going to say it out loud for you. 250 snaps less than what Wingard is playing. What that tells me is he is a focal point of this defense. He is somebody they're building around. You got Foye. Everybody in IDP knows Foye, but if you're unfamiliar, he is a tackle monster. Okay, so he is in the game because he's getting tackles. Wingard, on the other hand, I think he's in there because of the versatility he gives defensive backs in that lineup. Last week, he had 10 total tackles, and he had a pass defended. The week before that, he had 5 total tackles and a pass defended. And the week before that, 9 total tackles and a pass defended. So the guy is breaking up the pass rush. He's breaking up the passing game, but he's also good enough to tackle the ball carrier and get him on the ground. And you're not getting a lot of tackles for losses, so they're not blitzing him a lot. He's not going to get the sacks. He's not going to be one of these like insane, oh my God, start him every week type of defensive backs. But he's had double-digit points in 5 of his last 6 games. Before that, he has had them in 7 consecutive games. So only 2 games this season, he has had less than double-digit points. And in fantasy football, especially in IDP, you're just looking for guys that are going to score consistently. Before we move to your next guy, Ryan, you want to talk a little bit about Wingard and your love for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Oh, for sure. As I can speak as probably the only Jacksonville Jaguars fan of the state of Ohio. So I feel like I'm uniquely qualified to talk about Jags players, especially when it comes to IDP, which, let's be honest, there's very few on Jacksonville that are really worth much of anything aside from a Foye Oluokun. But, Andrew Wingard has really showed up the last couple of weeks, and even this past week actually tied Foye for the team lead in tackles. And you're starting to see this lockdown safety finally materializing in Jacksonville, which I feel like as a fan, I've been waiting for since like the Rashawn Mathis, Jonathan Cyprien days. We hardly ever have a shutdown safety in Jacksonville that's able to do something like he's been doing. And it's been really nice to have to not worry about, the top getting taken off of the Jacksonville defense every week. Like I feel like the early 2010s was all that was. So it's really nice to finally see secondary help blossoming in Jacksonville. And I feel like at 28 years old, Wingard could be around for a really long time.
I love it. We're going to get our first YouTube comment on here, Ryan. It's going to make your whole day. This comes from John Montgomery. I don't know who that is. How do you feel about Zach Bond? All right, I'm going to start because I know where you're going to go with this. Zach Bond was the first person that I was mega right on. Okay? Super omega over the top. Cannot believe it. League winner. Called it week 1. The behind the scenes, though, this person, my guest today, was the first person to put me on that trail. He said, guys, including my father, who just put this on here, this guy named Zach Bond in Philadelphia, he looks good. And I don't know how legit it is, but I'm telling you, I think he is great. So I'm like, all right, Ryan, whatever. You don't know this. I'm so much smarter, blah, blah, blah. I start digging. And oh my God, we have a league winner. We have a diamond. So I know that this was intentionally put out there. I feel like you guys were texting about this beforehand. Ryan, tell me about what you love for Zach Bond. What'd you look for? How'd you find him?
So Zach Bond is one of those guys that is a once-in-a-generational find, I feel like, for us IDP players. It's not every day you have a guy who, for the first 3 or 4 years of his career, he was with Minnesota, and it just didn't look good. He goes to New Orleans, still doesn't look good. Finally goes to the Eagles, where the coach decides, oh, he's just in the wrong position. Let's put him at middle linebacker and see what we have. And then from the minute training camp starts, you get all of these glowing reviews. And in IDP, especially that early in the season, you got to take risks on guys because, good training camp news could, correlate to good in-season production. And I took a shot on Zach Bond early in all 5 or 6 of the IDP dynasty leagues that I'm in, because most of my teams usually are not the best. And from that moment on, when you start getting those diamonds in the rough, and Zach Bond last year was an all-pro player. He was probably top 5 in IDP scoring for most standard scorings. He's the definition of a diamond in the rough. He is a waiver wire gem, and that's the kind of guys that you want to be able to find. So my advice, if you're wanting to find a Zach Bond, just search for good news early. Even if it's just a minuscule amount of news is good. Whether it be good or bad, news is always good for players because it teaches you something. If you find good news early, ride with that. The worst you can do is cut him in a week if he doesn't do well. But always take the risk.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you on this, especially on that last point. Okay, it was awesome. The Bond thing was good, but I think the system that you employ there, you got it. In fantasy football, everybody's like, no, don't waste your fab early. Don't waste your auction dollars in week 1 or 2. I would argue week 1 and 2 might be the only weeks you actually find legitimate, stable starters. And if you don't strike early, there's a chance you're going to be left with the grenade in your hand and the pin out. You have to bite early. Bite early because others are doing that approach where it's like, stay back. I need to see it more. I don't. I'm a gambler. I freaking know you're a gambler. You got to push your chips in the middle and you just got to go for it. These windows close so quickly and it takes forever for them to open. So if there is a little breadcrumb of good news, you have to go for it. So thank you, random user John Montgomery, for that question with no prior knowledge of the person on here. That seems like it was a very good segue into our next part here. Ryan, you had one more. You gave me both of your waiver guys already, both of the Chicago linebackers, but you were more so on the DeMarco Jackson train. My guy is a defensive back, Cameron Kinchins, the Los Angeles Rams safety. And look, if you watched Sunday Night Football, you probably heard Chris Collinsworth talk about him probably 15 times, but one of the main things I do think we need to point out is he has currently, over the last 4 weeks, been the highest-rated defensive back in all of football, okay? Normally, when that happens in IDP, you do not get statistics with that because quarterbacks avoid those type of defensive backs. But Kinchins plays safety, and safeties are very versatile. They can go all over the field. Not to mention the fact that Kinchins is very, very young. So right now, you're almost getting to see him kind of blossom into this great player. Well, here's the stat line over the last few weeks, which is why he's rated so high. So against the Saints, he had 5 tackles and a fumble recovery. He had 3 tackles the next game and a fumble recovery. He had 4 tackles the previous game, or the game after that, with 2 interceptions. And then last week on Sunday Night Football, he had 7 total tackles and a defended pass. He's doing everything. He's always around the ball. And I'm going to have defensive backs. I want defensive backs that are around the ball that are going to create not only turnovers, but they're going to get tackles. They're going to get their hand on the ball. And Kinchins right now, he is just 23 years old. 23 years old. All right, this guy is not even close to his prime, and he is putting up top defensive back in the NFL numbers, okay? Do I think he's an all-pro right now? Maybe, maybe not. I think it's a little early to start giving out those type of awards. We got a lot of ball left. But right now, he is playing like absolutely one of the best players at the position. And I guarantee you he is likely available on your waivers. So they got a tasty schedule coming up. They got the Panthers this week. He's questionable. I still think he's going to play. Nothing is showing us that he won't. But the Panthers are 31st in the league against that position. And then after that, the Cardinals at 15, the Lions at 18, and then the Seahawks at 14. So he is playing almost the back half in every single game leading up to the fantasy playoffs. And I think players like that want in a roster. You got any sort of tips on Kinchen? See a guy you like? I see on the screen that I pulled up that in the league I was looking at, you actually dropped him at the beginning of the year. So that was kind of fun to see.
Oh yeah, see, even I'm not perfect. I find it for every Zach Bond I find, I drop a Cameron Kinchens. So I think the big thing to note with Kinchens and really just the Rams secondary in general is Sean McVay is so good at developing those guys. I mean, Cameron Curl's another one that's just been lights out this year. And I think the nice thing about Kinchens is, and especially when it comes to defensive backs, is a lot of times when defensive backs, to your point, when they get stats, it's usually because they're not doing well. Usually they're getting burned, and they're getting tackles on the back end when they're, getting absolutely torched by a wide receiver. But Kinchens is one of those guys that gets the stats when he's not getting burned. He's the one that's flying around the field, making plays, helping the rest of his teammates do better. He's one of those unique safeties that is just everywhere. And it's one of those guys that down the slope, I know we mentioned it a lot, could be one of those league winners if he continues this pace, because you're always on the lookout for these safeties that'll stay on the field as consistently as he has and provide the amount of production that he has, especially at that position.
I love it. Hey, Anthony Davis, the basketball player, are you familiar with what his nickname is, what they call him?
Not off the top of my head.
They call him AD or an ad.
I know you're sad draft season is over, but just because the NFL season starts doesn't mean the drafting stops, because Fast Draft has the Flex 6 Frenzy. You're drafting 6 guys for the Sunday slate. It's fast, it's furious, it's fun. And as with everything on Fast Draft, there are no salaries. Woo! So go to draftfaster.com, get the app, use your host promo code for a $50 deposit match. Now let's go start drafting faster.
I'm very proud of how that went. That was Fast Draft. All right, guys, make sure you use the promo code DGEN, DEGEN, and you get a $50 deposit match on Fast Draft. Ryan, I think Van Halen once wrote a song, and it was called Might As Well Gamble, right? Might as well gamble. All right, it's the holidays, and I know that they're for cheer and spending time with those you love. But there's only so long that you can sit in your great aunt's living room with the wood stove blasting 1,000 degrees before you go insane. So we are going to give something a little bit different this week, okay? We don't typically go too far into this, but you are an expert. I truly believe that. We're going to give you guys some juice, and not just cranberry juice, all right? We're giving you the real juice here. A little bit of cash in your pocket. Ryan, we're going to go over each of the Thanksgiving Day games this week, all right? We've got Green Bay versus Detroit. Then we go into Dallas versus Kansas City, and then the Bengals versus the Ravens. I want you to cook me up a parlay that is going to be the perfect complement to this feast I have with my family tomorrow. Where are we? Let's start with Green Bay versus Detroit. I need a parlay. I need to make some money.
Absolutely. I want to start this off by saying an all-time famous quote. It's Leonardo DiCaprio as Jordan Belfort in The Wolf of Wall Street. I ask people not to judge me on my winners. I ask them to judge me on my losers because there are so few of them. So with that in mind, I have cooked up a little mini $10 parlay that can get your little juices flowing, get the adrenaline going so that you can ignore the political talk happening at the turkey table and being able to sit in the living room seeing what your players are doing. So the first thing in this Packers-Lions game, I've got Jordan Love, 170-plus alternate passing yards. He's hit that mark in all but one game this year. And playing the Lions in particular, he had 188 yards against them. So there's consistency there. There's history there. For me, that's all I like to see when it comes to gambling. If it's consistency, if it's, you have history when it comes to the teams that they've played, those are the big hallmarks that I look for when I'm cooking up something like this. So the second line that I have, Jared Goff, 240-plus alternate passing yards. He's hit that mark in 8 of 11 games this year. Green Bay has a lot of defensive issues and injuries that can make this for an interesting play. I know Quay Walker has been questionable. Keyshawn Nixon and a couple of other defenders are either hurt or out. Mm-hmm. So it makes a very tasty offensive situation for the Lions. They could run away with this game pretty early with these defensive issues, and you could see a big game out of their offense. I also see Josh Jacobs, 50-plus alternate rushing yards. He's hit this mark in 7 games this year. He managed 66 yards rushing against Detroit in week 1. The only issue that I could potentially have is he's coming off of that injury from 2 weeks ago. He was a full participant in practice today, so this is a little bit of a higher risk, high reward. But if he's playing, I think 50-plus rushing yards is not without possibility. The fourth line that I have is Jahmyr Gibbs, 80-plus rushing and receiving combined yardage. He's eclipsed that mark in 8 games this year. He's coming off of arguably the best game of his career, the best game he will ever have, with over 240 scrimmage yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, he looked absolutely unstoppable. And he's the type of player, what I like to find when it comes to gambling lines are people that can take advantage of the positions that they play. And one of them is a running back who will never be off the field, regardless of game script. And Jahmyr Gibbs is one of those guys. Even if, the craziest thing happens where Packers go up 28 points in the first quarter, it's not like Jahmyr Gibbs is ever going to get sat. He's available in every different position. He's a pass catching back out of the backfield. Regardless of the game script, he will always be involved. And that's the type of guy that I always like to bet on. And then the last line I have for this game is Amon-Ra St. Brown, 60-plus receiving yards. He's eclipsed that mark in 7 games this season. There's, again, a lot of injuries to the pass-catching group for the Lions. For the Lions also have a lot of injuries as well. Sam Laporta is out on IR. Jamison Williams was invisible last week. So there's a lot of unknowns on that team, and one of the few, consistent parts has been Amon-Ra St. Brown catching the ball. And also to go off of that, Green Bay still has those injuries on the secondary. So these odds of a big play happening in the secondary, and if there's any wide receiver that could take advantage of it, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
All right, so recap the 5 lines for me, please.
Absolutely. You got Jordan Love, 170-plus passing yards. You've got Jared Goff, 240-plus passing yards. You've got Josh Jacobs, 50-plus rushing yards. You've got Jahmyr Gibbs, 80-plus rushing and receiving yards. And you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, 60-plus receiving yards. And just to let you know, a $10 bet on that as of when I placed it today pays out $42.50. So that's a little bit of nice cheddar there for you.
4 times your money. I don't know why you're saying it with this cadence where you're talking like you're reading me like an audio book, but I feel it, all right? I need a little bit of confidence. That did not give me the juice I need, all right? But it 100% feels like an appetizer is what you gave me. It's like, all right, that the Josh Jacobs of the world, Jahmyr Gibbs, they're involved with their team when they're healthy. I think Josh Jacobs is going to be involved more so than he was this week. I think if Emmanuel Wilson was going to take that job, he would have had just a bit more of a breakout. And he didn't have a bad couple of weeks there, but he just didn't do anything that made me think it's going to be like a Montgomery Gibbs situation. I say that, though, and then like you said, Gibbs has the game of a lifetime. And David Montgomery I like David Montgomery. Hopefully got a jersey of him coming this year. But I just don't think that he is going to be a guy that's going to ever challenge Gibbs. And I think once Gibbs has these type of games and once we see it, it's going to be impossible to get him off the field. And Dan Campbell took over play calling, and what does he do? Immediately feeds the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs a million times. Jordan Love passing yards always makes me nervous because I can't tell if I think the guy's good, great, or bad in each week. But I don't think that he's the type of player that shrinks in the big time. And this is a big game. It's probably going to be one of the most viewed games of the entire year. This has got to be one of the most viewed weekends of the year for the NFL. And then finally, Jared Goff's been just an animal. Everybody thinks the pocket passer has died, and then Jared Goff shows you that it is still the best thing that you can do as a quarterback. If you can dissect defenses from the pocket, you're going to be a successful quarterback. So love those lines. We're going to go to probably the tastiest game of the day now. This is probably the main course. This is one of those, you got Jerry's World. You got a halftime show. You got Mahomes, you got Prescott, you got the double receiver tandem in Dallas that is just tearing the league up this year. George Pickens is suddenly a good teammate again now that he's getting the ball. How crazy is that? Ryan, I need a parlay that's going to help me retire with the Cowboys and the Chiefs. Where we at?
Oh, I got you. I got a $10 parlay that pays out $49.50. So it's another good one that's pretty solid for your afternoon tryptophan nap while you're following your football and taking a little nap on the couch. First line I got is Patrick Mahomes, 240-plus passing yards. I think, personally, he eclipses this easily. Cowboys secondary has been nothing short of awful this year.
Garbage.
Awful. When you have Justin Fields throwing for 260 yards against you, you're not that good. Let's be honest. So Patrick has eclipsed that mark in 9 games this year against much better defenses. And he's by far the best quarterback that the Cowboys have played this year. And it's not even remotely close. The only close person you have is Jalen Hurts, and that's still debatable. depending on who you ask. I mean, Patrick Mahomes will be by far the best quarterback they've played. I truly don't think that secondary is ready for what him and Rashee Rice are going to be able to do. I think it's going to be a huge game for the Chiefs offense, and I think that will show in some of these lines as well. To coincide with that, you've got Dak Prescott, 240 plus passing yards. I think one of the main things that they're going to have to do is keep up with their offense. I think it's going to be very difficult for them to stop Patrick Mahomes in the passing attack. And Dak Prescott's going to have to show he's the guy in order to even just remotely stay in this game. He's eclipsed that mark 8 games this year. He's going to probably be playing from behind if you get a good Mahomes game, especially if the defense and the secondary fall behind. And again, the emergence of George Pickens as an alpha, as you mentioned before, he's finally a good teammate. I would argue 1A, 1B with CeeDee Lamb. It's only going to help Dak get going early when you have CeeDee Lamb not having the yips like he did last week. I don't think that's going to be a consistent issue with him. When both of those guys are on, you're going to see Dak lighting it up, and I think that showcases here. And talking about CeeDee Lamb, I also have CeeDee Lamb 50-plus receiving yards. He's hit that mark in every game that he has played fully this year. So even in this supposed slump that he's going through, he's easily surpassed that. And since we're talking about that slump, he had 75 receiving yards last year. Or not last year, last week. And people are saying that he's got the yips and are in a slump. I don't know about you, but I'd be happy with 75 yards out of a wide receiver. And especially when it comes to gambling and making money, 50 seems like a pretty solid bet to get, especially for a receiver that's coming back from this supposed slump. For my fourth line here, I've got Rashee Rice, 80-plus receiving yards. He's eclipsed this 3 of 5 games that he's played. He's easily becoming Mahomes' top target in the passing game. And again, the Cowboys secondary is just really, really bad. And he could easily ball out with increased playmaking opportunities, especially if Mahomes starts locking in early and looking like prime Mahomes. This could be a long game for Dallas' secondary. And to help fix that, the last line that I have with this is Javonte Williams, 60-plus rushing and receiving combined yardage. He's eclipsed that mark 9 times this year. And the last 3 games, he's hit that mark on rushing yardage alone. He could be the good tempo setter that's kind of needed to stop Kansas City's offense. The best way to stop their offense is to keep them off the field. And the only way to really do that is control in the trenches, have Javonte Williams go north-south, get that first down yardage, and take time off the clock. Keep Kansas City off of the field. That's the only way you're really going to be able to stop Patrick Mahomes, is just don't let him get the ball.
Man, little bro knows ball. We have the most concurrent viewers we've had since I've started this show. We're currently hit at 61. You know what the problem is, Ryan? Nobody's freaking commenting, dude. Send me a question. There are 61 of you watching this. Tell Ryan, are you fading these? Are you tailing these? Does he know what he's talking about? Is he a blowhard? I need to know, because right now I'm just seeing my little brother spitting facts on here with these parlays. So recap that one more time for me. The Cowboys and Chiefs parlay that you're rolling with this week.
Absolutely. I got Patrick Mahomes, 240-plus passing yards. I've got Dak Prescott, 240-plus passing yards. I've got CeeDee Lamb, 50-plus receiving. I've got Rashee Rice, 80-plus receiving. And I've got Javonte Williams, 60-plus rushing and receiving combined yardage.
All
and
right.
that $10 bet pays out $49.50.
All right. So almost 5 times your money. You can't beat that. Right now, we have just had a wonderful appetizer. We have had a fantastic turkey meal. But guess what? We overindulged. We're about to throw up because the Bengals are on the screen now. And the Bengals play the Ravens. And Joe Burrow is back. And I love the Bengals. And I hate what's going on right now. So, Ryan, the only thing that I can hope for in this game is that I make money. Because the only thing I'm going to get is a lot of regret and a lot of anger. What is the parlay for the Bengals and Ravens to close out Thanksgiving?
Oh, you got it, my man. I'm just like you. I'm tired of the Bengals, but at least they can make me some money. So let's go. First thing I've got is Joe Burrow, 200-plus passing yards. The sheriff is back in the city of Cincinnati, and he has got a lot to prove. He's hit that mark in 7 of 9 career games against the Ravens. He's good against the Ravens. He just knows what to expect. He knows what to give them, and that 200-plus mark seems like a pretty solid bet.
We're so bad.
And you know what's even better than a Joe Burrow normally? A Joe Burrow that has a lot to prove.
Yeah.
Because that man is the ultimate competitor, and he wants to prove to the city of Cincinnati that there's still something to watch. Whether it's running the table and hopefully making a wild card or burning down lavishly, not through any fault of him trying, it's going to be must watch on Thursday. Second, I've got Lamar Jackson, 200-plus passing yards. He's hit that mark 7 to 12 times against the Bengals. And the Bengals defense, let's just go ahead and say it, we are historically terrible. It's one of the worst. We don't. I mean, it's basically turnstiles at every single position. There's very, very little good to say about them. And I think that a quarterback like Lamar Jackson will take advantage of that heavily. And much like other players that we've talked about, Lamar has been going through what people seem to think is a slump, post-injury and post all this. And what better time for a slump to end than against the worst historical Bengals defense of all time? So I think that, fate goes in Lamar Jackson's favor in terms of how he looks against the Bengals. Number 3, I have Derrick Henry, 50-plus rushing yards. The ageist wonder sets the game's tempo always. And I think 50 yards for arguably one of the best running backs of Matt and I's generation, I think is a pretty safe bet to make. He's hit that mark in 7 games this year and has 6 straight games of over 60 rushing yards against, let's face it, much better defenses than the Bengals. So I think 50 is a pretty fair bet, especially if the defense still hasn't figured out what they're doing. The weirdest line I have on this one is Chase Brown, 100-plus rushing and receiving combined yardage.
Oh,
he has hit that mark in 4 games this year and has actually hit that mark in the last 2 games that he's played. Especially with T. Higgins out, the Bengals need to kind of play it safe a little bit in terms of how the offense looks. We don't know how Joe's going to look. I love to think that Joe's going to throw for 500 yards and 8 touchdowns, but let's be honest, he's coming back sooner than a lot of people thought. It's unsure how he's going to look. So I kind of take it that we're going to play it a little bit safe, and the game is going to run through Chase Brown, whether that be out of the backfield, running north-south. Chase Brown is going to get a lot of opportunities. And the last line that I have for this is Jamar Chase, 70-plus receiving yards. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Matt, but did you know that Jamar Chase is a co-owner of the Ravens?
Yes. Let's go.
He has hit that 70-plus receiving yards mark 6 games this year. His chemistry with Joe Burrow is undeniable, and he's going to be prominently involved because T. Higgins is out. And I do have one question again for you. If you had to guess what his average yardage is against the Ravens, what do you think it is?
I'm thinking it's going to be over 100, so I'm going to go with 125.
It is 120.3 in 9 career games.
Man.
He just owns the Ravens. I don't think it's anything that the Ravens do because the Ravens defense is good. But Jamar Chase has proved time and again against the Ravens that he just can get it done. And I don't expect that that's going to change on Thursday.
All right, recap them. What's the lines here?
All righty. First and foremost, we got Joe Burrow, 200-plus passing. We've got Lamar Jackson, 200-plus passing. We've got Derrick Henry, 50-plus rushing. We've got Chase Brown, 100-plus rushing and receiving combined yardage. And finally, Jamar Chase, 70-plus receiving yards.
Man. Who wins?
I think it's the Bengals in a close one.
Yeah.
I can't root against them. I won't. I can't do it.
I won't either. I hate the Ravens. Second best Harbaugh. All right. For the dozens watching around the globe, I want to make sure that you understand. Ryan has a positive gambling portfolio that is across all major sports books. We're talking like the DraftKings, the FanDuels, RIP, ESPN, Bet, all of those things. He is positive all time. I know I'm his brother. You're just going to have to take my word for it, but I'm wearing a turkey hat. Why wouldn't you trust me? He's positive. All right? That does not happen. I'm not positive. I got the same DNA and blood running through my veins, and I'm nowhere near what this is. And honestly, if he didn't bet on all the other sports, if he would just stick to football, he would probably be much more positive than what he is. But I've seen him do some god-awful NBA bets. So this is legitimately, I believe, the best type of gambling advice, quote unquote, that you can receive is from somebody that truly has a system down. And what's your system? It's not like Alan in The Hangover where you're seeing all the numbers fly up in the air as he's coming down the escalator. But I do think that there's a lot of consistency with how you approach certain lines and certain props. And I want to kind of double down and just ask you a little bit about what your process is when you are looking for those combined rushing receiving. Because I noticed in all 3 of those, you have something similar to that line. Is there a reason why you go for total yards with running backs as opposed to one stat over the other?
Oh, 100%. It's much like you said, it's very calculated. Like the way that I look at it, the running backs that will get out of the backfield will always have positive game script. They'll always be involved, which means even in blowout situations, they're still going to get usage. You know, I kind of view it like if I had Chase Brown 60-plus rushing and the Bengals are down 28 points in the first quarter, that bet is basically dead. because the Bengals are going to run the ball a lot less because they're playing from behind. You know, in a situation where teams are playing from behind, especially like the Bengals, at least the rushing and receiving yardage gives you a little bit of peace of mind of knowing, hey, this player's still going to be on the field, so I should target that. And that's kind of one of my big philosophies when it comes to gambling and betting football is positional scarcity, much like in fantasy football, is king. I remember specifically there was one time early in the year when Omarion Hampton got hurt and the running back room for the Chargers was muddy. The betting lines on Kimani Vidal were pretty solid because nobody really knew what to expect. And he ended up being pretty serviceable. Those are the kind of things that you need to look for is where can these guys be utilized the best? Injuries can help those lines. So, for instance, with the Bengals, with T. Higgins out, you're going to see guys like Andre Yoshivash and Mitchell Tinsley get a lot of opportunities they wouldn't get normally. So it's a lot easier to make bets on those guys because the opportunity will actually be there. Obviously, this isn't gambling advice whatsoever. Please bet responsibly and, only use money you can afford to lose. But I try to use an approach that's very similar to fantasy football because the main idea is the same. You look for opportunities to maximize people being on the field, and you use that to your advantage.
Dang. I love it. So now I'm going to hit you with the blitz. Typically at the end of the show, we have some hoity-toity analysts, and they've got all kinds of fancy analytics, and they want to tell me how smart they are. And most of the time, they're smarter than me. I'll never say that about you. You are not smarter than me. I will always be the bigger brother. But I am going to ask you questions that even your tiny little brother brain can answer because everybody's got a favorite Thanksgiving food, man. What are you looking forward to the most going to Lydia's tomorrow?
Deviled eggs, 100%. Deviled eggs are the 1-1 in every Thanksgiving draft. They're the Jeremiah Love. They're the Jeremiah Smith. They are the 1-1 unpopular opinion of the Thanksgiving table. Every first bite that I think I've ever had for Thanksgiving has been a deviled egg. So it's got to be deviled eggs for me.
You can't go wrong with a deviled egg, and I'm with you. I'm going right to the main course, though, dude. I'm going to the protein. Yeah, it's cool to have a deviled egg. You can have a deviled egg. It's just a freaking hard-boiled egg with a little bit of weird relish on top, and I like it. It's good. But, man, you wait like 6 hours smelling this turkey. We like to deep fry in our house sometimes, but we've always baked. Sometimes, we almost started a fire on the porch once doing that deep fryer. But there's so much that goes into the turkey that I feel like it has to be the first bite. It deserves that. Heck, our presidents, they pardon turkeys every year. You don't pardon the deviled egg. You pardon the turkey. You got to eat the turkey first. So there's not wrong with the deviled egg. What's your favorite dessert for Thanksgiving? What are you looking forward to tomorrow?
I love a nice apple pie. It's traditional. It's delicious. It hits in all the right spaces. It knocks me out for a nice nap afterwards. It is the perfect palate cleanser from some afternoon and evening football when I'm waking up, wondering what year it is after that couch nap. Like it is the perfect dessert for that fall day.
I'm with you. I was going to go apple pie too. I know we're brothers, but you got to have it a la mode. Put a big old scoop of vanilla ice cream on top of that warm, hot apple pie. Let it melt a little bit on there. Don't just go right into it, all right? You got to savor this. You got to make sure that everything is properly melted. It's gooey, it's creamy, it's on top, and then you get that nice big bite of the apple pie dessert, all right? What's the best? Okay, you can't say the Bengals game because I know that personally. What's the best game we got tomorrow? Which one are you looking forward to more, the Green Bay-Detroit game or Dallas and Chiefs?
Definitely Kansas City, Dallas. I think you're going to see a vintage Patrick Mahomes performance. And you know more than anybody, Matt, my love for Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce after drafting both of them in a dynasty league and having them through multiple Super Bowls. I might be a little biased towards Patrick Mahomes, but I do think we get a vintage potential 303 touchdown game out of Patrick Mahomes, and it's going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, and I know you pulled up Micah Parsons' notes so you could try to get me, so I'll just go ahead and get it out of the way now. Micah Parsons has 6 sacks since I wrote a hate piece about him on Football Guys. So I'm an idiot. Micah Parsons is great. Go ahead. Put all your chips in the middle of Micah Parsons, but do not come crying to me for gambling advice when that blows up in your face. I'm also looking forward to that game, and it's mostly because I love DeMarvion Overshown. I think we're finally getting to see him back. He came back from, I think he devastated every CL in his body. ACL, MCL, PCL, doesn't matter, no leg. And that's what happened to him. He's coming back now. They eased him in the first week. The second week, he played a little bit more. I think you're making me laugh. He's going to be playing a legitimate amount of snaps this week, I think, for the first time. You had a really cool story you told me off air. I'm not going to steal your thunder like I did on Zach Bond. Go ahead and tell everybody about this. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah. Well, I saw this because he was talking about it on the Dallas Morning News yesterday, but DeMarvion Overshone and Patrick Mahomes actually grew up in the same town in East Texas, in Tyler. And Overshone went to ARP High School, which was rivaled to White House High School, where Patrick Mahomes went. And when he was drafted, DeMarvion Overshone always said that he wanted to either play with Patrick Mahomes or sack him. And when he was on the news yesterday, he said outright for the world to hear, I plan to sack Patrick Mahomes tomorrow. So I think you're going to see a man-possessed, just much like you when you were sitting the bench at Batavia on those Williamsburg games in basketball, Matt. I think you're going to see all of these guys just, have just a much heightened level of energy, knowing that DeMarvion Overshone is motivated to play to his full potential tomorrow.
Really quick for those, I played against Williamsburg, triple overtime. We won. Coolest environment I've ever been in, and it was one of the only games I started. So suck on that, Ryan. Look, this has been great, but there was no way I was going to let you off here without asking one thing. Who wins Survivor Series War Games for the men's team? The good guys or the bad guys?
Man, you're asking one of the largest Cody Rhodes fans in the world right now and CM Punk fan. I think it's the good guys. I think we're going to get a really, really good War Games match. I mean, I don't think it'll ever beat the War Games match in Chicago that you and I went to. Where we saw CM Punk
came back,
return.
baby.
Nothing will ever beat that in my mind, but I do think that we're going to get a really good show on Saturday. I'm super excited for it.
I agree. Don't sleep on Brock Lesnar, the alpha male of the human species. The tribal chief Roman Reigns will put him down. Ryan, you came in on short notice. I had no idea you'd ever be interested in something like this, and I'm happy to say that this is the most viewed episode we've ever had. So I don't know if you got the sauce. It could probably go negative next week if all these bets miss. I will say to all of those that are going to put these bets in with Ryan, we have a saying at my house that Ryan's a great gambler if he would just take one leg off the parlay, because he is also the king of all but one. All but one Monty right there. So if you do have faith in these bets and you're looking for a little bit of advice on just a little bit of the inside scoop, like I got the house Vegas right here. He's got 5 on all these. Sometimes the man just needs 4. So I think they're all good lines. I really appreciate you coming in here. I love you to death. You're my best friend. You've always been my best friend. Plug your sports cards, though, before we go. Everybody's got to plug something on here before they go.
Oh, of course. So I run an eBay store where I collect and sell sports memorabilia, sports cards specifically. It's Cashew Sports Cards on eBay. Take a look. I'm always open to any kind of offers, discussing football. I just love football in all forms, and I love collecting. So if you happen to be interested in sports cards, check out Cashew Sports Cards on eBay.
That was the big Cashew. I'm happy to say that this might have been the most fun I've ever had doing a podcast, and I do this stuff for fun, man. So thank you so much for this. Everybody that watched, thank you. For the one YouTube user, John Montgomery 2682, whoever that is, thank you for putting your question in there. This was the Degens IDP Blitz. We'll be back next Wednesday at this normal time of 7 p.m. Eastern with my guest, Matt Batanti, where we're going to talk about all things relevant to IDP and a little bit of NFL and fantasy football commissioner stuff. This was the Degens IDP Blitz. I'm Matt Monty. That was Ryan Monty. See you guys, and have a happy Thanksgiving.